Hello again, this is Michael from TOEFLresources.com, and today I want to talk once again about the speaking section of the TOEFL. Specifically today, we are going to talk about Type 4 speaking questions. These are sometimes referred to as the general to specific question type or the reading and lecture question type. As you can see, this is the 2017 edition of the video. Now, the question itself hasn't really changed since last year, but I personally have learned a lot more about what strategies work best for students, so I thought it would be a great time to make a new version of the video. So, with that out of the way, let's get started. Today, I've selected a practice question from the TOEFL Quick Prep Collection, Volume 4. Specifically, it's the question about behavior modification. Now, the good news is that the TOEFL Quick Prep Collection is available free of charge from ETS. Just Google TOEFL Quick Prep and it will be the first result. You can download a PDF of the question along with an MP3 file that contains the audio portion. Now, I've chosen a question from this source because this source includes accurate practice questions. That is, it includes practice questions that are very similar to the real test. It's critically important that you study with accurate questions, because doing so will show you that all the possible Type 4 questions are designed in the same way. They use the same formulas and structures when making these questions each week. If you understand that, you're off to a good start. So what exactly should you understand about the question? Well, here are 4 key things that I think you should know. First of all, there will always be a short reading presented to you about an academic topic. That's about 100 words. So when the question begins, that's what you see on the screen. Later, the reading disappears, and you listen to a lecture on the same topic. The lecture goes on for about 2 minutes. That's key to remember. The lecture is about the same topic. Now, usually, the lecture includes 2 specific examples of what is discussed in the reading. Sometimes these take the form of personal examples of the speaker. That is, examples from his life that illustrate the topic. Sometimes they discuss just one example, but it has 2 clear parts. That is, first part cause, second part effect, sometimes situation and then resolution, or sometimes just first stage, second stage. So please understand that this structure, this pattern, is used every single week. If you've got a practice question that doesn't use this structure, it's probably inaccurate. Many of the popular TOEFL textbooks these days are not accurate. Even the new ones that have come out in 2017, they're not very good. So just remember that this is how the question is going to be designed when you're at the test center. Okay, so now that we understand the question, we need to know a few things about note-taking. When you're at the test center, you should be taking notes about both the reading and the lecture. Now, before I get started describing the notes I got from the sample question, please understand that these notes are an ideal. You're probably not going to get notes that are this good. I understand that. But make this your ultimate goal. Make this your ideal. Try to get as close to this as possible. And also try to get notes in the same kind of pattern, the same structure as mine. All right. So I started by looking at the reading. The first note I wanted to get was the topic of the reading, and that is behavior modification. And then I wanted to get 2 more details about this topic from the reading. First, I wanted to get something stated near the beginning of the article. That's where usually you'll find the main point. And my note was, people change behavior if aware of consequences. And then I wanted to get a supporting detail from the reading, something from the middle or the end of the article. In this case, positive consequences lead to repetition, while negative consequences do not. All right. So then the lecture comes up. And in this case, it's one example with 2 parts. So I made note of the example, child starting school. And then I got the first part of this example. Doesn't know rules, runs around. And then I got a detail. Gets punished by teacher, can't play outside. Then I got another detail. Learns that this is bad behavior. Then I got part 2 of this example. I noted that the child raises his hand and pays attention. And then I got a detail about that. Gets praised or stickers. And then a detail from this, learns to repeat the behavior. So as you're taking your notes, if it's a lecture with 1 example, get the first part and then get 2 supporting details. Get the second part and then 2 supporting details. If you're dealing with a lecture that has 2 examples, get the first example with 2 supporting details. Get the second example with 2 supporting details. The way the lecture is designed each week, you can do this almost every time. Part 1, detail, detail. Part 2, detail, detail. Or example 1, detail, detail. Example 2, detail, detail. Practice taking notes. I've used complete words, mostly. I've used almost complete sentences. You're going to probably take much shorter notes. PLE for people, something like that. Note-taking is a skill. Practice it. But as you're practicing it, practice also this note-taking structure. Topic, something from the beginning, something from the middle or end. Get the example. Part 1, detail, detail. Part 2, detail, detail. So once we've taken our notes then, we hear the buzzer sound. That means we have to speak. We need to know how to structure our answer. If you've seen any of my videos, you know I'm all about structure, and I'm all about templates which you can memorize and use for every answer possible. So what's the structure? What's the template for this one? Well, it starts with this. The reading is about. It states that. The lecturer elaborates on this by providing several examples or an example. First of all, he mentions. Secondly, he says. In this way, the professor expands upon the topic of. This last one is optional. Use this if you have time to kill at the end, but realize that the last part isn't very important. So I want to again stress that this structure can be used almost every single time. And that's because all of these type 4 speaking questions are designed by ETS in the same way. You're always going to be able to use this. So what exactly goes in here? Well, on the next screen, I'm going to show you a sample answer, but basically, this is where you put the topic. The reading is about behavior modification. The reading is about orca whales, whatever. It states that, and here's where you put your details from the reading. This sentence doesn't really change. First of all, he mentions, and that's where you put the first example or the first part. Secondly, he says, this is where you put the second example or the second part. Easy, right? I hope so. Here's a sample answer which uses the practice question we're using today. Now, your answer should be about 60 seconds. And just for fun, I'm going to read this one and I'll time it and see how it comes out. I understand that as a native speaker, I speak a little bit faster than you, so hopefully this comes in at a little bit less than 1 minute. Let's see. The reading is about behavior modification. It states that people modify their behavior if they are aware of the consequences. Positive consequences cause people to repeat behavior, while negative consequences discourage repetition. The lecturer elaborates on this by providing an example. First of all, he mentions a student who has just started school. The student doesn't know the rules, so he runs around and interrupts the class. He is punished by not being allowed to play outside, and thus he learns to avoid repeating this behavior. Secondly, he says that the same student might later raise his hand to speak and pay attention during classes. After doing this, he will be praised by his teacher or get some nice stickers. This positive consequence will cause him to repeat his polite behavior in the future. And that came out as 54 seconds. Now, I understand that you might not be able to speak this fast. That's okay. If you need to shorten the answer, you can certainly say a little bit less about the reading. You can just mention the first detail you got about the reading. It states that people modify their behavior if they are aware of the consequences, period, and then you can get right to the lecture stuff. That's a good way to save a few seconds. And again, if you need to shorten what you say about the lecture, say less. But again, make this structure your ideal. Make it your ultimate goal. And as you practice, do your best to say about this much. And then you can get a high score. All right, so I think that just about covers it. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to leave a comment below. I check the YouTube comments just about every day, and I try to respond as quickly as I can. If you want to know more about this stuff, of course, you can subscribe to the channel, or you can visit my main website at TOEFLresources.com. Over there, you are going to find guides to every section of the test, including a lot more information about the speaking section. Also, while you're there, you can sign up for my essay evaluation service. Through that service, you can send me your essays and I will check them and estimate the scores. And most importantly, I will go line by line and fix your grammar and vocabulary mistakes so that you know what you should do differently on the real test. All right, I'll leave it at that, and thanks again for watching, guys.